Michael Jordan was bigger than life in Chicago. As worldwide as he's known now, it was like every corner of Chicago knew about Michael Jordan. So I grew up during an era where if you wanted to be a really good basketball player, you had to go out and play on a playground every day. But for me, the violence was so high in Chicago at the time. It was the beginning of like the crack epidemic and just all that. So my parents were very hesitant to allow me to go out and just play basketball by myself. Most people say, "Oh, well, you must have done 100 drills and things like that." No, no. Here are the drills I was doing. I had a dog, really big dog. He was chasing me. The dog name was Bingo. I forget what kind of dog he was. But anyways, dog name is Bingo. I'm like, Bingo. So I call his name, he'd come running. And then all of a sudden the dog wants the ball. So I worked on my moves against the dog early in the morning. So I would take him out, say 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. I was working on my handle. Late at night, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm working on my handle. So that was the one thing that I could count on. And then I had an opportunity to go to the playground with my oldest brother, Dion. And for him, he was jumping out the gym. Everyone wanted to throw him lob passes. And I would just sit and watch. I would sit and watch. If they did not have 10, or if my brother was feeling really nice, there were no way, like they weren't betting on a game. He'd like, hey, I'm picking my sister. And so he would pick me, come up to me. Hey, here are the type of passes you're throwing. You're throwing a lob pass to me or a bounce pass. You're not throwing chest passes. So for me, I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, I'm getting a chance to play with the big boys. Second of all, I cannot let my brother down. So, yeah, I got you. I just like, I got you. When in doubt, I try to dribble by the guys. And if some guy was like really big, I would just throw it up as high as I could because I always felt like if I threw it towards the rim, my brother would be there. And I promise you, I cannot think of a time when he did not catch one of my passes. I never threw it over his head. I felt like he kept going up in the air. He kept ascending to where the ball was. And inevitably, he just throw it down. And I was like, oh, it made me feel so good about passing that naturally I feel like I became a point guard because I knew that if I could throw a lob, and I only had two passes of choice, lob passes or dunks or bounce passes. And so my precision with passing came about because I was playing against older guys, bigger guys. And while my handle was effective, honestly, it was the passing that kept me on the court. And so as my skill grew and I fell more in love with basketball from watching Michael Jordan, and it's the Craig Elo shot. We call it the Craig Elo shot, where Jordan makes a basket and literally, like, it was seventh game, and he makes the basket to advance, I think, to play against the Detroit Pistons. Everyone else counted the Bulls out, was like, oh, they're not going to win that series. Well, that's the memory I have of just like, I told myself, I am going to play basketball because it seemed like so much excitement. But because my brother was patient and told me the two passes I could throw, lob pass, bounce pass, I was like, man, I got to be on the other end of being able to make a layup. I knew I could never dunk like Michael Jordan, but then it was like, how do I score? And for me, my most vivid memories of Michael Jordan and his teams were transition. So from there, I just knew that I would become a guard who can really score in transition. Like I was either diming you or I was going in for the lay myself. That was Chicago basketball for me and how I started playing. But then once I started playing, I started going to different neighborhoods, different playgrounds, seeing Ronnie Fields, Jimmy Sanders, Kiwan Garris. These are just some Chicago players and boys basketball players. But then there was Kim Williams on the women's side, um, Lisa Burris, like E.C. Hill, Dominique Canty. Like I can rattle off. There were so many exciting and electrifying guards that came out of Chicago that we just called it. It was like Guard USA for us. If you wanted a big time guard, you needed to come to Chicago. Now, no disrespect to New York City, they had the flash with the handle. But if you were looking for somebody to really come and take you to the next level, it was Chicago guards, tough, gritty, do whatever it takes, blue collar, hard workers. We had flash, but you're gonna get that dub. Like you're gonna get a winner coming out of Chicago. And I don't think it has changed from Will Bynum. We can keep going. D Brown. When you think about guards that have really come out of the city, Cappy Pondexter, yo, we got some people, and I'm not talking about the Chicago land. I'm talking about Chicago inner city. Like, because there's a difference. No disrespect to everyone else, but at the time, the '90s, 2000s, Chicago basketball was popping.